Episode 3 of the Westies begins with John Gotti holding Mickey hostage. Despite being beaten down, Mickey doesn't flinch, laughing off their torture attempts, which include a bottle smashed over his head and a baseball bat slammed into his body. Gotti knows it'll take a hole to crack the kid, but he's not going to stop. Before we jump into this brutal breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, share this video with your fellow crime drama lovers, and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you never miss an episode breakdown. Meanwhile, Jimmy and his gang bemoan their luck. Had Mickey not given Aaron the bracelet, they may not be in this situation. Then again, Jimmy did kill Vincent Zaccaro to pit this whole mess into motion too, so there is that. When Eamon finds out Gotti has Mickey, he's worried and believes the guy will talk sooner rather than later. Jimmy, though, wants to orchestrate a plan to get him back. This involves Eamon visiting Big Paul Castellano to get Mickey released because they have the wrong guy, using the Javits Center as leverage. This could then stop Mickey from being killed, and the big boss would inadvertently prevent the truth coming out too. A lot of this rests on Eamon's power of persuasion, but this situation is made all the tougher by the dead cop found off the highway. That's not just going to go away. Poke catches wind of this and immediately believes it's a stitch-up, especially with the driver's license on the ground at the scene of the crime. For now, Eamon goes to visit Big Paul, and in exchange for freeing Mickey, he wants Eamon to do him a favor. This stems from a disco called the Starship, nestled deep in the heart of Jackson Heights. The club is a front for a Colombian distribution network. One of Castellano's captains are going against his wishes right now, trafficking narcotics, and their plan is to kill the Colombians. It's a dangerous mission, but seems to be the only way to get Mickey back. The boys show up at the Starship, and Jimmy meets a dealer called Jose. He pretends to be working with Vincent, which gets him into the basement where the whole operation is being conducted. All of this is a way for Jimmy to scout the place and get a lay of the land. Back on the dance floor, Pat gets into a fight causing the whole group to be kicked out the club. Gotti shows up to see Big Paul, where the latter chews him out for getting involved with drugs. He wants them to stay above the gutter and tries to keep him in line, but it's clear Gotti is a bit of a livewire and not so easily swayed. Glenn then shows up to see Eamon, who's clearly rattled over the investigation Poke is conducting. He's getting hot under the collar, especially as he could be an accessory to murder if he's found to be working with Eamon. Of course, by this point Eamon wasn't aware of the cop's murder, but when Glenn leaves, Eamon curses under his breath. Glenn starts to unravel, even visiting his estranged son and hitting him several times to try and get answers. He eventually does find out that it was Pat and strikes a deal with Eamon. Given how easily he obtained this information, Glenn knows that Gotti and his boys could just so easily find this out too if they rattle the right people. In exchange for dealing with Pat and taking care of him, Glenn wants Danny left alone and out of the gang drama. Eamon eventually agrees. The Colombians are heavily armed though, and taking them out is not going to be easy. When Jimmy lets Bridget know what he needs to do, including the likelihood that this is basically a suicide mission, she decides they could kill two birds with one stone here. Given she spent most of the episode trying to work out what Brandon is doing in New York, she might as well use his gear to help clear the Colombians of wrongdoing, given their firepower is down on the docks. Armed up, Jimmy and his crew show and clear out the Colombians with little effort. Before they go, though, Jimmy snatches up a good deal of coke to sell on the side. With Eamon holding up his side of the bargain, Mickey is freed, much to Gotti's annoyance. As the episode closes out, Glenn takes care of Pat, killing him outright. The Westies slows down a little this week as we see the situation involving Mickey's torturous ordeal hit fever pitch. Jimmy and his gang attacking that discotheque feels like filler busy work, which is bizarre given we're only 3 episodes in. We don't see too much of the Irish subplot either this episode, instead using their weapons as a means of attacking this disco, which is cleared out surprisingly quickly with only 4 men. I thought Bridget may have had the boys team up with the Irish to take them down, in exchange for her getting involved in their op, but obviously that hasn't played out that way. It does seem like, given the brief scene with Brandon toward the end, that Bridget will be forced into complying if they realize she's given Jimmy and the others those weapons. As a nice aside, we do get to see Big Paul this episode, along with diving into more of the machinations and drama between the two gangs. Pat's death at the end is obviously going to be the driving force for this conflict picking up, especially as Jimmy is going to be convinced this is Gotti's doing. Hopefully next week's episode can pick up the pace a little, as this one felt like a bit of a step back.